Now that we've talked about all of the planets, let's actually talk about our moon. So the Earth has a moon. Again, it is one of the largest in the solar system. There are only about 6 others that are comparable in size. There's more known about the moon than any other object, simply because it is so relatively close. Its diameter is about 1/4 the diameter of the Earth, although its mass is just about 1% of the Earth's mass. The surface gravity of the moon is about 1/6 the surface gravity of the Earth. In other words, you would weigh 1/6 of what you do on the Earth if you were standing on the moon. Now, because of its low gravity, it actually has no atmosphere. Because it has no atmosphere, there's no weathering or erosion that is going to cover up any of the craters. So because of this, and because of how old the moon is, we see that it is very heavily cratered. Altogether, there have been 12 people who've actually been to the moon, actually stood on it. If you've watched Apollo 13, the movie that came out in the 90s, you have a good idea of what happened. Apollo 13 actually had a catastrophic failure on its way to the moon. Fortunately, all of the astronauts survived and were able to make it back, but it was very concerning for a little bit. The last moon mission actually left the moon at the end of 1972, and no manned missions have been back to the moon, although there have been several missions to the moon, and not just by the United States. The Soviet Union sent many during the same time as the Apollo missions. More recently, the European Union and China have also sent landers to study the moon. How did the moon form? Our current best understanding is that it likely formed due to a giant impact. There was actually some large object similar in size to present-day Mercury, possibly as large as present-day Mars, that crashed into the Earth. This crash was so large that it actually led to a whole bunch of debris being ejected, which then reaccreted, eventually forming into the Earth's moon. We have a lot of strong evidence that this is the case. In fact, several years ago, there was a paper published by geologists looking at changes within the mantle that they have been able to detect through seismic waves and other means, and they believe that they even know where on the Earth got struck. You may have noticed that as you watch the moon, it changes phase from night to night and week to week. The phase of the moon is actually determined by how much of the lit side of the moon we see. So just like the Earth has half of it facing towards the sun and half facing away, we have the exact same thing occurring with the moon. Half of the moon is actually always lit by the sun. So even though half is always lit, we don't always see that lit side. So depending on its position will determine what phase we see. So the different phases, beginning here with number 1, we have what is termed new moon. New moon is where only the shadow side is facing towards the Earth. After new moon, we have waxing crescent. Waxing means to be growing, and the reason why we call it crescent is because that's the shape it has. After waxing crescent, we have first quarter. Okay? During first quarter, we see half of the lit side. So from our view, we see it as half lit. One way to remember that this is first quarter is because we're seeing the first half of a half. Remember, half of the moon is lit at a time, but from our point of view, we're only seeing half of that lit side. So it's a half of a half. Now, the actual reason it's termed first quarter is because we've gone through 1/4 of the cycle. After first quarter, we come to waxing gibbous. Waxing gibbous is where it is greater than half, but it's not yet all the way full. We still see some of the shadow side. This is waxing gibbous. After waxing gibbous, we have full moon. Full moon occurs when we see all of the lit side of the moon. After full moon is waning gibbous. Waning means to be decreasing or shrinking. So it's still that more than half, but not yet full shape, but it is starting to decrease. After waning gibbous, we have third quarter. This says last quarter. I don't believe I've ever heard anybody else say last quarter. I've heard most astronomers term it third quarter. Okay, this is again, we're seeing the half of a half, but in this case it's on the other side, so it is the third quarter. We have also gone 3/4 of the way around. After third quarter, we have waning crescent, and that then brings us back to new moon. Now, although the moon orbits around the Earth actually only ever sees one side of the moon. The moon has what we call synchronous rotation. What this means is that one orbit of the sun around the Earth and one rotation of the moon on its axis take the same amount of time, so only one side faces us. So in this image, we're looking at the moon and the Earth. We have highlighted 2 craters on the moon, one blue and one red. And here we are beginning with new moon. During new moon, notice we have the red crater facing towards us. As we go through a quarter of the orbit, so we go from here to there, notice that the moon also rotates by 1/4, so that as we're looking at the moon over in this position, we again see just the red crater. If we continue, we go for another quarter rotation and another quarter orbit, and again, we still see only that red crater. So the moon is rotating at the same amount of time it takes to orbit, so that one side always faces the Earth. You can actually see it as you compare the moon night by night. So here we go through the crescent phases to first quarter, but notice that we're always keeping the same phase. Then from gibbous to full, again, always keeping the same side, not phase, always keeping the same side of the moon facing towards us. Here's our next clicker question. During the time of new moon, the A, sun is between Earth and the moon, B, the moon is between the sun and the Earth, C, Earth is between the sun and the moon, or D, none of the above. Go ahead and think about it, and we'll discuss in just a bit. All right, so during new moon, the shadow side of the moon is facing towards the Earth. So we have to have Earth, moon, and then sun. So the moon is between the sun and the Earth. The answer is B.